What's going on, everybody? New season, new update, new everything. First things first. I've been seeing that this new battle rifle is ridiculous, so I'll be unlocking that and making some videos on it later and give you a loadout. For now, I'm just gonna go over the settings, the graphic settings to make your game run as good as possible with whatever setup you got. So I have a 4080. I still run my settings as if I have like a 20 series, so this should work for everybody. First things first, if this screen refresh rate isn't matching what your monitor is, so mine's 180, so this is close enough, whatever. You can switch this to full screen. I just use two. I use two monitors, so I like to have the borderless. And when you switch it to full screen, it unlocks this so you can change it. So I guess auto is 179.997, but you're able to change that, and it gives you a little more customization there. But I do full screen borderless. The FPS loss on that is pretty minimal. So wide 16:9, whatever your monitor is, that's what you put it to. You could probably just leave it automatic and you'll be fine. Brightness, I put it 60, and then I have color filters through a different app for my monitor. But 55, 60, you're good there on the brightness. Display gamma 2.2 if you're on a monitor, 2.4 if you're on a TV, I believe is the way to go. Reflex, low latency. I use on because my GPU is better than my my GPU is better than my CPU. So my CPU struggles a bit, but also I use my GPU to record more than I use my CPU. So I want my CPU to take more of the load. So on plus boost, it gives a higher power draw to the GPU. On uses it, makes it to where like the CPU uses more power. If you have a good enough computer, it doesn't really make a difference. But there's a bit of a noticeability when I go from on to on plus boost while I have my OBS recording. If I wasn't recording, then I would turn this on plus boost to get as much out of my GPU as I could. Eco mode, custom, turned all this off. I leave my frame rate uncapped. If it's struggling though, what I'll do is I'll set it to like 150, just so it's not getting the full 180, but I mean 150 is still good enough. When I'm recording, it struggles because I only have one PC, but when I'm playing on my own, I leave it uncapped and I'm getting like 230, 240 around there. Optimal could be made. You can set this whatever you want. Pause game rendering, you want this off, just because like when you're in the pause menu, you just yeah, it doesn't really matter. Just I didn't even know that was a thing. I'd leave it off though. Focus mode 0s. If you have two monitors, it'll make the other monitor darken. If you set this to 100, it'll make the other screen completely black. So I set it to 0 so my screen doesn't go black. HDR, leave off. You're good there. Quality, do not use one of these presets. That's stupid. Custom, make sure the render resolution matches whatever you're trying to use. So if you're trying to use 1920 by 1080, this should be 100 right here. When your display says 1920 by 1080. So make sure if this says a different number, just make sure it all adds up. So I'm at 1440 at 100, boom, good. Dynamic resolution off. Upscaling, Fidelity FX Cast is the best one by far. And then I set mine to 70. You can set it to 80, 90, 100, whatever you want, but I set mine to 70 so it doesn't use as much of the GPU. Path tracing off. VRAM scale target, set this to 70. As you can see down low on the bottom right, my target is well above like the usage amount, and I have other apps running. Like right now I'm being dumb and I have Chrome open and I have my OBS recording, and they're using almost as much VRAM as Modern Warfare is. So you want this Modern Warfare 3 gigabyte usage, VRAM usage, to be below like a 2. Like I've seen friends who have it at like a 7, and it's like, what are we doing? So you want this to be extremely low. I have a lot of VRAM, but even if you have like 8 gigabytes, you still want to set it to 70. Variable rate shading off, DLSS frame generation off. These are both just like additional things you don't need. Texture resolution, you could set this to very low or normal realistically. There's not much of a difference in frames between low and normal, but there's a difference between very low and normal. If you want the little bit better resolution, you can run it normal, you'll be fine. I wouldn't recommend high though, because you don't really need to see the texture all that good. I run it very low because I'm trying to get as much frames as possible. Texture filter and anisotropic, you could put this to high. There's really not much of a difference. I just leave it on low because I genuinely don't really see much of a difference in the game, in the graphics quality. So I just leave it there. But if you set it to high, you'll be fine. But you might as well put it on low. Depth of field off, absolutely off. Detail quality level low. Particle resolution very low. Every time there's an explosion, gunfire, anything, this will make your shit mess up. So leave this at very low. This is super important. Do not take this off very low. I have bullet impacts on. I flip-flop between on and off. I just like to know, like, hey, did someone shoot the wall here, you know? And also if I'm trying to check like a recoil pattern in a wall, then I'm able to do this. So I leave mine on. You don't need it on though. Persistent effects off. Shader quality low. On-demand texture streaming minimal. Local texture streaming quality low. As you can see, pretty much everything's low or like very low or off, or you don't need all this stuff on unless you have like a 4090 and like the best CPU combination you can find. There's really no point. You're gonna just handicap yourself with frames, and we're trying to get the most frames possible. So very low, all these off, and then low. Tessellation off, low, off, all this off. Just turn everything low. This game is meant to run on the lowest possible settings. Is it gonna look phenomenal? It'll look fine. It'll work. You'll be able to see everything. It's not gonna make much of a difference as long as you have the sharpening on. Like, you'll be able to see everything. It's just like the ground might look a little messed up and buildings might look a little rounded, not as sharp, but you're vibing. Trust me. Just everything low, very low, off. Like, you don't need to go on extreme settings. And then view, FOV, anywhere between like 105 and 120, you're vibing. ADS field of view affected, weapon field of view wide. This will make your gun smaller, and your when you're just like looking, like this weapon, the weapon looks smaller. That's literally the thing. You're able to see more because the weapon's smaller. And then affected, when you ADS, it'll go with it. Weapon motion blur, world motion blur, both these off. Film grain, I usually set mine to 0.25. I have it at 0 right now, but I usually turn it on a little bit just because I like the look, but you can, that's preference. First person camera movement least. Any of these like camera movements or blurs or anything you're adding to make it look worse, you're just, again, you're messing yourself up. So leave these off and turn this down as much as possible. Inverted flashbang, it's preference. I never really turned it on, but people usually don't use flashbangs. So yeah, not a big deal. A couple other things real quick. In the interface, color customization, filter 2. And both 100, it's going to make the game pop a little more, make it a little bit easier to see everything. And then if you're wondering how to see what your FPS and all that is, you want to go down to telemetry, show more, and then in here you can set up on the top left, you can set up whatever ones you want. So I just have FPS, server latency, and packet loss, just so I can see all those things while I'm in the game. But yeah, that's all.